Prime Minister's questions.
The member for Urpuch East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Could the Prime Minister indicate the benefits accrued to Trinidad and Tobago from the work of United States-based lobbyist Art Collins from October 2015 to date?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, for very many years and under very many administrations, the sitting government of Trinidad and Tobago noted the need to have its interests advanced in Washington and elsewhere. And against that background, the governments of Trinidad and Tobago have consistently hired lobbyists to open doors, make representations, and to further the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago at these locations, making it easier to carry out our foreign policy, our economic policy, and our national security initiatives. Art Collins brings all those benefits to us at this time in the same vein of earlier lobbyists who have served the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Supplemental question, member for Urpuch East.
Thank you very much. Could the Prime Minister indicate any one single benefit that has accrued to this country from the employment of Mr. Collins?
Prime Minister.
I thought I just did that, Madam Speaker.
Supplemental, member for Urpuch East.
Could the Prime Minister confirm that Mr. Art Collins continues in his role as lobbyist and on the payroll of the people of Trinidad and Tobago?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, when Mr. Collins was sourced and hired, he was contracted for a period of time, and to the extent that that contracted period has not expired, in that case, he would still be on the payroll.
Member for Naparima, question 2.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the Prime Minister state when the findings of the report of former Ambassador Christopher Thomas on Dominica's request for a waiver of contributions to the Organization of American States will be made public, and the action or actions he proposes to take regarding the report?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the report of Ambassador Christopher Thomas is in the hands of the Office of the Prime Minister and is subjected to considerations. And as soon as it is appropriate, that report will be made available to the Standing Committee on Foreign Policy, which I understand is available to receive such report. And at the appropriate time, my office will make that available to the Parliament, to that committee.
Supplemental, member for Naparima.
Would the Prime Minister, thank you, would the Prime Minister be prepared at this stage to tell us whether the report attached responsibility to any party for issues which arose from the incident?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the contents of the report indicate that there were shortcomings on the part of persons who hold office in this country, and that report will be made available to the committee.
Supplemental, member for Naparima.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Does the Prime Minister subscribe to the Westminster principle of ministerial responsibility? And if so, will he act accordingly, consistent with that principle?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I have never hesitated to subscribe to the principle of Westminster.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the Prime Minister inform this House of the most recent estimated date of arrival of the MV Garland's passage to Trinidad and Tobago?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I just want to congratulate members on the other side for their consistent interest in the Garland passage. And I'm just nervous that one of them might try to punch a hole in the hull. But Madam Speaker, the Garland's passage has been delayed by 3 to 4 weeks for various reasons, including bad weather and delays at designated ports of arrival in Honolulu and Acapulco, where the vessel had difficulty in getting berthing spots on its arrival. Madam Speaker, this small vessel has just completed a comprehensive trip completely across the Pacific from China to, where is it now? To Mexico. That's approximately 6,000 miles. And after that journey, the vessel is currently, as it has been exposed to routine maintenance along the way, and is now experiencing some maintenance at Acapulco. The current estimated arrival time, and I say this pending good weather and also a progress at Havana when it gets to Cuba, where some improvement works on the vessel has already been announced to be done. All things being done against that background, we expect that the vessel could arrive in Trinidad and Tobago at the end of the month.
Supplemental question, member for Couva South.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Taking into consideration that it was a new boat that was procured by the Cabinet Committee, can the Prime Minister verify the Acapulco's Harbour Master's report that the boat has a faulty water pump and the power supply has been affected?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, today is a busy day for us in this Parliament, right? If a little coastal vessel has just done 6,000 miles and it has an issue with a water pump, I am particularly happy that the only issue the boat might have after 6,000 miles is a water pump issue.
Member for Point of Peer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Honourable Prime Minister, could the Prime Minister inform this House?
May we have order, please?
Could the Prime Minister state who is the current President or acting President of Petrotrin?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the Board of Petrotrin, under Cabinet's guidance and instructions, had been taking very drastic restructuring actions at Petrotrin, which has led to the removal of a number of persons at the top of the company. The company is currently actively engaged in the process of seeking the qualified persons to serve as president and in similar positions. In the interim, the Cabinet has approved an executive body from the board for a 6-month period, and I think two months of that has gone. So in a few months that will expire, and hopefully the board would have sourced a president and other posts that will run the company.
Supplemental question, member for Point of Peer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Prime Minister, could the Prime Minister state who is the one individual who is responsible for the day-to-day runnings of the Petrotrin as we speak?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I've just answered that.
Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you very much. Could the Prime Minister indicate whether or not those persons who have assumed executive authority at Petrotrin are also being paid foreign travel as part of their compensation package?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I do not have that information, but if the member wants to file an appropriate question in the appropriate place at the appropriate time, he will surely get that and other answers. We'll file it here.
Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you very much. Question number 5, I imagine.
Question number 5.
Could the Prime Minister provide an update on the planned divestment of shares of Trinidad Generation Limited?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance had indicated at an earlier time some intention to divest some of the equity that the state owns in Trinidad Generation Limited. That is still under consideration, Madam Speaker, as we move towards the creation of the NIF. That is being considered, and if it is concluded in that way, this House would be made aware of it, but at the moment, consideration is being given to having that maybe as part of the contributing package into the National Investment Fund.
Supplementary question, member for Oropouche East.
With that in mind, could the Prime Minister state any expected date for the offering of shares of TGU?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I think I see a question here that applies to that. So if, can I answer that now? Or
Answer that and we'll vacate.
Okay. Well, I will answer question number 6 now then, because that is question number 6.
Prime Minister, if you answer it as supplemental to question number 5, we'll then vacate question number 6.
Could the member assist me by repeating the question?
The supplemental question is, would the Prime Minister state the expected dates of the offering of shares of TGU?
Madam Speaker, I just said that the TGU shares are being considered as part of the complement of shares that will go into the NIF. So there's no share issue of TGU shares to come, because if it goes into the investment fund, it wouldn't be TGU shares that would be offered. It would be the investment fund. And there's a question here asking about the investment fund and what date it is supposed. So if the member will wait to hear the answer to his side's own question, then he might get the answer he's seeking.
Supplemental question. Member for Old East, question number 6.
Thank you very much. We could have saved all that if he had sit
Member,
down.
please just
Could
ask
the
the
Prime
question.
Minister provide an update on the creation of a National Investment Fund announced in March 2018, through which shares in a number of companies would be offered to the public?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, if the member for Orp, which is trying to confuse me, I think he has failed. Because I will now say the establishment of the National Investment Fund as a closed and investment fund to transfer into the NIF assets of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the Deposit Insurance Corporation, CLICO, and CLF. These fund products would be offered to the general public units in this National Investment Fund, and that is to be determined. And these units would be traded on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. And engagements of appropriate consultants and legal advisors to establish these objectives are well underway, and it is expected that the Minister of Finance will speak to that probably today, and we expect that this fund would be available by the end of July 2018.
Member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Based on the Prime Minister's recent statement on the Couva Children and Adult Hospital, could the Prime Minister state the terms of engagement with InterHealth Canada?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the discussions are underway to establish an arrangement where that hospital would be made available for use both for nationals and regional and international clients. Those discussions are well underway between the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the university, and InterHealth Canada. InterHealth Canada being in this arrangement by a government-to-government arrangement with the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the government of Canada. These discussions are currently underway, and I am not now in a position to give any specific date as requested by my colleagues on the other side.
Supplemental member for Faisabad.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Prime Minister, can you indicate whether as part of these discussions, whether any arrangements will be made to guarantee employment to local doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the outcome of the discussions will determine what happens with respect to that question.
Member for Chaguanas East, question number 8.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Subsequent to any arrangement between the government, the University of the West Indies, and InterHealth Canada, could the Prime Minister indicate whether the public would be paying for services at the existing Couva Children and Adult Hospital?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, as I've said before, discussions with respect as to what is going to happen there, what kinds of procedures, what kind of ownership and operational protocols will take place there, those discussions are currently underway, So the questions that members are asking now are premature.
Member for Carney Central.
Prime Minister, with all due respect, the issue of whether the hospital is a paying or a hospital for which free services, in which free services are offered, is a policy question. And I don't think
Member, question, please. You have 15 seconds.
and I would like an answer to the policy question of whether they will be fee paying or not.
Madam Speaker, this government has no intention of running away from this country. And if members on the other side would listen to what I've just said, we are currently engaged in discussions to determine what will be the approach. So that these issues that are being asked, members are eager to find out the answers, but it is the discussions that we are having that will determine those answers. Those answers will flow from what is doable, what is possible, and what the outcome of the discussions are. And I simply ask my colleagues, don't be so previous, just wait, we're not running away.
Supplemental, Member for Naparima.
Prime Minister, in engaging in discussions, is it not prudent that you have a position in which you go into the negotiation, subject to negotiation?
And what makes you think we don't have a position?
Prime Minister. Member for Shogunas East. Order. Member for Shogunas East.
Supplemental?
Supplemental
question. I know it's...
Supplemental question, Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know the exuberance has started early. The question is, if we do not know what is happening, and you are telling us to wait, could you tell us when did these negotiations start and where?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I have just told this House that this government is engaged in discussions with other parties, negotiations and discussions taking place. And if what the members of this House are asking me to do is to publicize the government's position under the misconception that we have no position and no policy, I will not outline the government's position in the middle of negotiations to prejudice those negotiations to please anybody in this House.
Member for Shogunas East, question number 9.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 9, and I will read the question very calmly, slowly. Could the Prime Minister state why the government has discontinued construction of 70 schools at varying levels of completion as at September 2015, despite financial allocations in each of the subsequent financial budget statements of the Infrastructure Development Fund, IDF projects?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I will answer very slowly and very clearly, and I hope my colleagues will hear me. An allocation made in the
Prime
budget.
Minister. Members, it's very early in the day. I hope we will abide by the provisions of the standing orders with respect to shouting across the floor and loud outbursts. That is not going to be tolerated today. Prime Minister.
Yes, Madam Speaker. An allocation made in the budget is simply an expectation to spend revenue if the revenue becomes available. As the Minister of Finance treats with all demands on the exchequer, it has turned out that we do not have enough money to do everything that we want to do, including completing schools. And therefore, we make the most of what is available. And some schools are completed. Some schools have not yet been completed. But we are consistently working on it, and only recently, Cabinet has approved further allocations and expenditure to complete some of these schools. And Madam Speaker, we are in this position because my friend on the other side had issued a huge amount of contracts, some of them paying monies before the work has been done. And if those contracts had been funded at the time that they were issued, and that so much money has not been stolen and wasted in this country, we could have fixed all those schools a long time ago.
Madam Speaker, based on the Prime Minister's response with respect to Cabinet's approval for funds to complete these schools, will the Prime Minister be able to supply us with a list of the schools that are due to be completed based on the additional funding?
Madam Speaker, I would not be able to supply that today, but I'm sure if the member files an appropriate question, the appropriate minister, he will get a comprehensive answer.
Member for Oropouche West, question number 10.
Madam Speaker, to the Honourable Prime Minister, in relation to a press release issued by the Office of the Prime Minister indicating the possibility of purchasing a cargo vessel from Australia, could the Prime Minister indicate the estimated budget for this acquisition?
Prime Minister.
Speaker, I am not aware that the Prime Minister's office issued any press release about the purchase of any cargo vessel.
Supplemental question, member for Oropouche East.
Very much. Is one of the objectives of your visit and your delegation visit to Australia to look at ferries to purchase a boat? Is that an objective?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I am not one of the Prime Ministers of Trinidad and Tobago who go abroad, see a boat, and say, I want one of that.
In a fog. In a fog. And then come back and change your mind.
Order.
All that has been said by this government, by me or by spokespersons for this government, is that one of the issues that we would look at is the possibility of obtaining new ferries which can be made available through any assistance or programs out of Australia. That is as far as it has gone so far. So talking about price and talking about what I'm going to do in Australia, Madam Speaker, I'll simply ask my colleagues on the other side, just wait a little bit now, just wait a little bit. Why are you so hurried? As soon as you mention anything, they want answers to everything. We're not there yet.
Supplemental member for Oropouche East.
Is the Prime Minister aware that a press release issued by the Office of the Prime Minister stated categorically that on a visit to Australia, they would look at the possibility of purchasing ferries for the sea bridge between Trinidad and Tobago? Are you aware of that? And if you were aware of that, why did you not say that in the beginning?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, just for the benefit of the public, because in recent months, persons who are not in the know or genuine mischief makers have been confusing a cargo ferry with a passenger ferry. We are currently in the process of approaching the time when we place orders for new passenger ferries and also a cargo ferry. From Australia, the passenger ferries are built by Incat and Austal. So any reference to Australia is specifically to deal with passenger ferries. And we have done nothing, Madam Speaker, to date other than to be looking towards the possibilities that may be available to us coming out of Australia. That's where we are at the moment.
Member for Shogunas East, question 11.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Given that the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Centre is an important plank in the government's diversification strategy, could the Prime Minister state what is being done to address the decline of Trinidad and Tobago as a recognized international financial centre?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, it is so not surprising that my colleagues on the other side could only see the negatives. I am not aware of any decline of any international financial center in Trinidad and Tobago. What I'm aware of is that the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center is for the first time making meaningful progress towards the establishment and expansion of business process outsourcing in Trinidad and Tobago. For example, Scotiabank's Shared Services Center in Chaguanas, which serves the region, is now employing 800 persons. That is not a decline, that is progress. Madam Speaker, progress is also being made towards attracting a large Asian bank, a North American bank, to establish regional financial services in Trinidad and Tobago. That is not a decline. That is going forward and upwards in the correct direction.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honourable Prime Minister, may I ask the question? You have given one example of a business process outsourcing as an optimism for the International Financial Centre, which was started under our government. Could you tell us, apart from that initiative and the potential for the Asian, what other mechanisms, measures, or outcomes or successes we have seen to say it was not a situation of decline?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, as far as I'm aware, whatever was there before in terms of employment and growth has doubled. And Madam Speaker, even if the first component, the first increment was there, there is no decline from what was there. But they forever want to give the country the impression that everything is going from bad to worse. There is no decline at the International Financial Centre.
Member for Oropuch East, question number 12.
Thank you. Based on recent newspaper reports of government's intention to embark on a $9 billion housing program, could the Prime Minister state the source of funding for such an endeavor?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the newspaper report that the member speaks about was very clear, crystal clear. But if he needs assistance, I will help him. The funding that is to attend the housing construction program in Trinidad and Tobago, government-driven, would come largely from mortgagors, meaning many persons who will pay for their unit by taking out a mortgage at the time when the unit becomes available. So it is their money paying for their house through a mortgage program that will contribute to the funding. Also, Madam Speaker, we are engaged in the invitation and incentivization of the private sector in public-private partnership, where private sector agencies or persons can bring to the program their funding to create housing units, which through the HDC would add to the component. We already have 4 or 5 of those projects underway. Madam Speaker, we also will continue to fund, particularly for those persons who will be dealing with rental issues as their housing solution, with allocations from the Consolidated Fund. And Madam Speaker, the HDC will continue to collect its mortgages from existing estates, and wherever there are surpluses from that arrangement, that will also be used in the assistance and facilitation of the creation of additional new units. And also, Madam Speaker, we will be very well benefited if the member for Oropuch East stay far from the HDC.
Thank you very much.
Order.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. Bearing in mind that the member of Oropuch East has never been fired from the Ministry of Housing, could you indicate, has never been fired away, could you indicate as a former fired Minister of Housing whether the PPP projects have reaped any benefit within the last 3 years? Have you built one house through this PPP measure? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, if the member for Oropuch East would like to get a comprehensive answer to that question, if he files an appropriate question, we'll give him a comprehensive issue to every house that was built, every kitchen that was built, and every minister that has been fired as it has been built.
Supplemental, member for Oropuch East.
Could the Prime Minister indicate whether it is the policy of the HDC to evict persons who are up to date with their rental payments at this time?
I will not allow that as a supplemental question to the
going
question
mad.
that posed. I would just ask all members to
Listen
please.
to
I would just ask all members to contain their outbursts and remember that we are governed by parliamentary decorum.